But in a situation where you find that a person look at the situation,
not necessarily tribal or regional.
but I have said that.
Right now, we're going to take a look at the review of the papers. We're going to look at some of the headlines that we have on our dailies for this morning. And right now, we have a reviewer in the studio who's actually a publisher, Summit Post News. That's Nelson Yakubu Omonu, and he will be with us here for the newspaper review. So we'll go straight into it. Zainab?
Let's take a look at some of the stories on the Daily Trust newspaper this morning. The lead story there states, terrorists overrunning our states, Zulum Matawale cry out. And the riders, 2 local governments under ISWAP occupation. This is according to Borno governor. Military have no modern weapons. This is according to Zamfara state governor. Deployed to Kano jets, 1,000 armored personnel carriers. Troops well equipped, and this is in response by the Nigerian military. And you also see a picture there that shows some governors and the Nigerian military who went on a sympathy visit by the federal government delegation to Government House in Gusau yesterday. And on page 4, federal government lifts Twitter ban 7 months after, warns users. You'd also see other stories there. Why executive orders 1 and 5 fail to make businesses easy. Kano tricycle riders call off strike. And on page 6, you'd see 18 killed in fresh Plateau attack. Power firms lose 1.6 trillion in 7 years over unutilized electricity. And on page 31 on the Daily Trust newspaper, Tinubu will not endorse candidates until constitution is changed. Afenifere. If you'd like to see details of that story, you can grab a copy of the Daily Trust newspaper. And other stories, Buhari governors, others mourn as ex-oil governor Alawa Kala dies at 71. So these are some of the major stories on the Daily Trust newspaper this morning.
And moving on now to the Blueprint newspaper, which has the banner headline, in Zulum on insecurity, peace has returned to 11 local governments, 2 others still under ISWAP. And the riders here are terrorists celebrating marriages, collecting taxes. And another one that says gunmen abduct several traders on Kaduna Highway. And of course, bandits released without charges, Matawale alleges. And another headline on the front page of Blueprint says Buhari Atiku others mourn as ex-governor Akala dies at 71. And another headline on the page of Blueprint newspaper says 2023 presidency, why Afenifere won't support any candidate. That is credited to Adebanjo. That's on page 5 of the Blueprint. And of course, petrol subsidy. Kwara NLC raises committee for nationwide protest. That is also on page 5 of the Blueprint newspaper. Another headline, one concerning politics now on the Blueprint newspaper, says APC convention will first address litigations and fallout of congresses, and that is credited to the Caretaker Extraordinary Convention Planning Committee of the APC. That story is also on the front page of the Blueprint newspaper. And another one on page 23 has Discos rejected 2 and 248 megawatts monthly in 2021. Those are stories on the front pages of the Blueprint newspaper. So for more details, grab a copy of that.
Okay, let's take a look at other stories on the Punch newspaper this morning. The lead story there, terrorists on the rampage in Plateau, Niger, kill 52, abduct hunters, others. And the riders, Niger terrorists tied victims' hands to their backs before shooting them. This is according to residents, quite tragic. You'd also see another rider stating Lalong demands arrest as invaders gunned down 18 in fresh Plateau community attack. And there's a very huge picture there showing ammunitions and some seizures by the Nigeria Customs Service. You'd also see other stories. Oil marketers begin establishment of auto gas conversion centers in filling stations. This is on page 24 on the Punch newspaper. And on page 7, until now, 2 Borno local governments under Boko Haram's firm control. This is according to the state governor, Zulum, telling senators. You'd also see over 3,000 killed in road crashes in 6 months. This is a report by the NBS, and you'll find the details of that story on page 24 on the Punch newspaper. INEC's 20 million new voter target shaky. 2.4 million registered. This is on page 2 on the Punch newspaper. And you'd also see workers, retirees kick as federal government plans 620 billion loan from pension funds. Shonikan tributes flow as family begins consultations on burial. You'd also see one of the stories that made their headway on most of the dailies this morning. It's about President Buhari lifting Twitter ban after 222 days suspension. You'd also see the story about NDLEA raids Lekki drug joints, arrests the general. Others recovers tramadol cannabis. And on page 8 on the Punch newspaper this morning, you'd also see Fayemi meet Tinubu over 2023 presidency, Ekiti governorship polls. These are some of the major stories on the Punch newspaper.
Next, we go to the Nation newspaper, which has the major headline as bandits kill 51, burn houses in attacks on communities. As 2 riders here, many feared dead, kidnapped on Kaduna-Abuja highway. That's the defense minister is also in Zamfara. And president orders sustained military onslaught. That's and then the Senate president says Nigerians want action, not excuses. And of course, we have another headline, still the one making the rounds. Federal government lifts Twitter ban, but with conditions. These are found on the front page of the Nation newspaper. And in business, it says equity gain 981 billion naira in 6 days. Investors earn 8.7 trillion since 2022. That's on the front page of the Nation. And of course, another headline here reads, ex-governor Alao Akala found dead in his bathroom. And there's another sad story here. Man kills own 3 kids, keeps bodies in a freezer. And of course, that's on page 4 of the Nation. And on page 20, Ikoyi building construction began before approval. So those are the stories that you can find on the front page of the Nation newspaper.
Okay, let's take a look at one more paper, talking about the Guardian newspaper. The Guardian leads with the story, federal government leaves Twitter ban after 222 days, 546.5 billion naira economic losses. And the riders there state stakeholders divided, say federal government should not gag platform. ECOWAS court plans to deliver judgment next week. And you'd also see we never left Twitter, Nigerians react. Yeah, this is quite true because a lot of young people have been using the virtual private network to actually use the platform, although there has been information about how unsafe, the VPN is, but we always find a way, to cut corners through these things, particularly when it has to do with social media. Now, you see other stories there. Nigerians tired of killings, says Lowell. Declare for 2023 presidency, Igbo politicians, technocrats urged. You'd also see the story about gunmen killing 21 in Plateau community. Buhari, Makinde, others pay tributes as Nigerians mourn late Oyo Governor Alao Akala. You'd also see a story on page 2 on the Guardian newspaper. COVID-19 summit urges Nigeria to galvanize other nations to seek debt relief. IMF wants global collaboration to boost Africa's vaccination drive. You'd also see other stories. Resign now. Dewey tells appointees eye elective officers. And on page 4 on the Guardian newspaper, why ex-SGF Babachir Lawal has not reported to EFCC in alleged 544 million naira contract scam. So these are some of the major stories on the Guardian newspaper, and we'll move straight into the review. And as we have earlier told you, we have the publisher Summit Post News, Nelson Yakubu Omonu, here to review the stories that made the headlines this morning. Good morning.
Good morning, Zainab.
It's nice to have
Brian.
you on Daybreak this morning.
Thank you.
Okay, now let's begin with the story on the Daily Trust newspaper that states, talking about security, that states terrorists overrunning our states. Zulum Motawali cry out. And some of the writers they are saying, like the one from Zamfara State Governor saying military have no modern weapons. And the military, on the other hand, are saying our troops are well equipped. Could you react, to this?
Thank you. Let me start from congratulations. Today is the anniversary of when the war ended, and we are here. There's Nigeria because the war ended. So, but it was not declared today. I think on the 15th, and that's why we have armed forces. Yeah. Thank you. Then quickly, I need to point out something on the Kano incident. The guy that kidnapped a 30-year-old girl and
the 13-year-old girl.
Yes, those are signs of a deteriorating society. Our value system, say, listen, it's not about poverty. It is not about poverty. Technically, we can say maybe poverty is also part of it, but most importantly, any society where how much you are carrying, you are holding, is to the extent people will respect you. People will do everything to belong. Yes, we have so collapsed everything in our country and narrow everything down to money. And anywhere you have that kind of scenario, you can't help it. This crime will continue to rear their ugly head, and we are not seeing the end until our value system is recalibrated. We are going to be around here for a while, because the way economy is closing, the more the economy is closing nose around us, the more people are worshipping how much you are carrying, the money you have. And if money is what determines the respect people give you and not your character, then I'm sorry, there's nothing we can do about this.
Still to touch on that, you made mention of recalibrating our value system. How do we go about doing that?
What the 1999 Constitution, of course, see, like where you come from, there are do's and don'ts, like norms. There are things that are acceptable in societies. Like, for instance, if we say Nigeria, that is too broad. But if you narrow it down to the value system of where you come from, when you were growing up, seeing that people who work for 35 years, they live moderate life, they have, people question your source of wealth. The way you live your life the way you live your life is proportionate to how people are going to take you in the society, and it's connected to when it comes to engaging leadership or maybe choosing leadership from within a society. It is what people know about you. But today, to become a governor, of course, you need a very heavy, deep pocket. Now, if you need deep pocket people do everything to get money in order to become leaders in society. It is not character that determine, or the person's personnel that determine the leadership role you get in your society, but the money you have. So in that case, you look for money by all means, so that if it comes to contest for power, you can have an upper hand. Okay. So let me come back to the state of security in Zamfara and Borno, as the governors are already crying. So let me weigh in this way. The ding-dong over counter-accusations over whether the military is equipped or not equipped, or modernized, our military is modernized or not. These are parts of the larger problem. But I think that when there's an accusation there that you read out that some one of the governors accused that I think it's Zamfara, that bandits have been released without
charges.
Without charges. So I think that when you start using people as scapegoats, I mean, others, it will serve as deterrent to others. Yes. When you have a situation where it's as if tactically, whether we are supporting the authorities, I don't know. I can't point a finger exactly at what is going on. That offense that is as serious as kidnapping, banditry, and all that, you treat it with levity. What are you technically telling the people? That you can continue to do this? After all, if you spend some months in prison, somebody will come for you, or in a way, they will just fix things and release you. So it's not going to stop. The whole of this is not only about military, it's about our resolve to end this and end this now. Yes. If we have resolved to end this now, I bet you, give us another 3 months, we are done and dusted with this. Though poverty factor is there, young people are unemployed, we are still going to have deviances here and there. But the core of it, like the type we have in Zamfara and Borno State, I think Governor Zulu mentioned that about 2 local governments are still within the control of ISWAP.
Exactly.
Is it the Nigerian army that liberated Liberia, that liberated Sierra Leone? Is it the Nigerian army? Was it equipment that made that empowered Nigerian army under ECOMOG to liberate Liberia and Sierra Leone? That is the question we should be asking. Then what is it? There's a missing link. Is it that tactically some people are supporting what is going on? If it is like that, then it's sad. If it is not, governance is about the people, and the people they are under siege. The government of the day, that is President Muhammadu Buhari, a retired general, respected for his military doggedness. Seriously, we don't know what is going on.
You know, in his interview, exclusive interview with channels, and the NTA, he mentioned specifically that his government, since coming to power in 2015, have succeeded, in manning the whole security situation, particularly in the Northeast. And, with this statement coming from the Borno State governor, it seems like there's still much to be done.
That is a political statement. The president's statement is just political. Because from all indication, I think on Punch, it was 52, not only in Borno, I think Niger, Zamfara and the rest. 52 killed at once. What? So, and the president is telling us that he has been able to, how? So the evidence of the effort he has put in the last 6 years should be about that maybe 1 killed. And maybe after next week, maybe another scam. But this is becoming a recurrent. This is what we wake up to see on pages of newspaper every day.
Right.
So
while we're still on that, there's this ongoing debate about where the brunt actually lies, because we've heard before governors being addressed in some places as chief security officers of their states. So where does the responsibility actually lie? Is it with the governors or is it with the president? Because if you say that the governors, they'll tell you that the military is not under them. They don't command the military because the military has their commander in chief. And but still we go back and we still point fingers at the governors. So where do we actually put the blame? Or where does the responsibility lie?
The system we run.
Yes.
We copied it from the United States by 90%. This presidential system, and we copied it from the United States. The United States president, one time, I'll get the name handy. He said he was debating. It was like in a meeting with some of his officials and all that. And when the argument was becoming too much, he landed hand on the table and said, "The buck stops here." So in presidential system, the buck stops on the president's table. In the kind of presidential system we have fashioned for ourselves, what the president fails to do, or what he is able to do, impact positively on the larger society. The structure of our federalism today suppose that the president has both knife and yam. Also, he can do anything he likes. But let me say this. The person that cannot appoint the army, see, constitutionally, no governor can tell the army, go and do this. No governor can tell the army, the police, go and do this. Down to civil defense, down to correctional prison officers. They cannot, governors can. So I don't know. This is not a question. The question is the box stops on the president's table.
Okay.
And I think we should leave governors out of it. But I think what the federal government can do is look at what you're giving to governors as security votes. Analyze it. See the cost benefit and see what they are doing with the money. Is it really justified that we should be giving them money? I agree that yes, there are some backroom deals that we don't know. But why not have it down to 30% of what we have now? Then this 70% of what you are giving them as security votes, plunge it back to fighting insecurity. And then quickly, I thought that with the challenge we are facing now, we should quickly do something about this traditional role, empowering traditional rulers. You know those days that they had roles to play. The situation was a bit different. See, let me say this. See, we are from societies that is at lower level now. So why not empower these people who have the first-hand information? They have where you have maybe a first-class chief in a particular area. He also, down the line, he has his own people who will, anybody that comes into the society, if they start seeing new faces, they report to the higher traditional ruler that, look, I'm seeing influx of 1 or 2 persons who are. So I think the part of the solution, again, apart from the military approach, because that seems to have dragged for too long, 6 years since this government came, we have not really, it's just that the urban areas we have been able to push back, but our territories are still being held by ISWAP. So I don't know. You see, number one, we have to do more with the traditional rulers, because these things are happening at the local level in our communities, and that is where they are traditional rulers. But they are helpless because the Constitution, the 1999 Constitution, I don't know how to describe it, but it was a good start in 1999. But we thought that down the line, as we take off from there, we'll start panel beating the DC. But politics is not helping us. Yes, politics is not helping us to at least to panel beat this thing to a current reality. When insecurity started rearing its ugly head, I thought that the National Assembly will just come quickly and say, okay, let us see how we can empower the traditional rulers to take charge of their society, of their communities. And when you do that, the traditional ruler will report directly. He can call the governor or call the nearest military formation that we are beginning to see 2 or 3 persons that we don't know gathering, so that if it is things like that are neat in the board, it won't be allowed to fester for too long. Then when it's out of hand, before you call the military, and by then these people, whether they are from across the borders, just like you pointed out earlier, because of the crisis in Libya and the spillover effect. So if we see them, we should know them. And the federal government or federal officials or states, this thing cannot know them. It's the traditional rulers that can know new people that has come into their society, into their communities, and how to deal with. And I think that one, traditional ruler. The second one is the military, the accusation and all that. See, first, if you like, bring the U.S. Army to Nigeria, as modernized as they are. Bring them to Nigeria. And political interferences or political will is absent. See, there's nothing that can be achieved. So we must all be on the same page. That look, with the equipment we have, we can. These are not organized army. I agree that it's a bit difficult to fight. These are not even guerrilla. They are not living within the people. They are living in bushes and all that, that we can use modern technology. We map areas and try to annihilate these people. I am not saying that kill them, but if you can arrest them. Then, thirdly, we should also come down to the issue of if you are caught as a kidnapper, as a bandit, or as anything, it should be treated as such, so that deterrent is even more punishment than any other thing. When you know that the law is waiting for you, I mean, you will think twice.
Right. Well, now let's take a look at other stories. We're seeing renewed attacks in Plateau State, and many have, cried out, saying maybe because we're looking forward to the 2023 elections, and we're seeing all these popping up.
Even of 2023 election season, they've been killing in Plateau. See, it's all boiled down to, if we say Zamfara, Borno, maybe we'll just like try to say that it's because they are border states. So maybe influx from across the borders. But Plateau is in the central. So what is going on? See, there is in Plateau, I think there is actually fight for space. Yeah, there's, apart from politics, there's a fight for, pressure is coming in on the central Nigeria because of what is going on, and the receding of Lake Chad and all that. So pressure is mounting because more people are coming to the central Nigeria, and that is why the insecurity in north central states of Kogi, Plateau, and all that, Nasarawa, is really is taking its toll on these states. So we still boil down to the government on how they use these security apparatus to deal with, and not all militarily now. There are other issues. You empower the people to see those. There's nothing that happened that traditional rulers don't know. Seriously. A sitting traditional ruler cannot say, maybe in one of the local governments under him, where there's a traditional ruler, and that one too has mother keys under him and all that down the line. They report to themselves. But it still boils down to empower them, give them specific role on how to deal with these issues.
At some point, these traditional rulers in Plateau State actually came together to actually find ways to curtail the whole insecurity in that state, because the crisis in that area seem to be, is also peculiar to kind of religious crisis and all of that, but we are still seeing these issues popping up. What really are they doing wrong? That
is politicians manipulating religion, because these people have lived together over time. Those days, as far as I know, the crisis in Plateau started from around 2000. That is a year after we returned to democracy. Why not before that time? In a bid to get hold of power, people do all kinds of things. People penetrate where they shouldn't penetrate and say things they shouldn't say. And in the end, like the first crisis in Plateau, I think in 2000 or so, started and all that. And you see, one thing with crisis is that if it starts, there will be that. It's like action-reaction. And it is a cycle. And it continues like that. But the traditional rulers that came together that you're talking about, they can't really do much, because there's nothing the Constitution says about what they can do. There's no constitutional rule assigned to them to, like, if there's anything, if you have, for instance, if a military formation that is located within the domain of a traditional ruler, he cannot ask the GOC, for instance, not order. But he cannot tell him that, see, there's nothing that empowers him to go to traditional ruler and, the military formation to say, we are beginning to see gathering of people around. Please, is there anything you can do? No, you will have to report to a local government chairman. No matter how big is any traditional ruler, his report is under the control of a local government chairman. That is the local government and chieftaincy affair and maybe commissioner. And politicians will always, even if they see something, sometimes they will look the other way because of their political interest. So it still boils down to government will have to look at the issue of Plateau again. Religion, yes, but why were they not fighting in Plateau before the year 2000? Yes, it's not entirely religion. Our people have lived side by side based on their religion for a very long time. Yes, if you go to states like Plateau, Kogi, and you see in the same family, some people are Christians, some people are Muslim, and they live side by side. A Christian can go to buy Quran for maybe his sister's daughter or son. I do that a lot. I have 3 sisters. I have 3 sisters, two married Muslim, 1 married Christian. And the ones that married Muslim, their children, if they want to graduate from this Quranic school, they will always insist that I pay for their graduation and buy their Quran and everything they need.
Really, that's how it's supposed to be, but you still see situations, particularly in Plateau State. Like presently, there is an area called Angworogo in Plateau State. Predominantly a Muslims Hausa community. And it is very, very difficult for you to actually see Christians wanting to go to that area. I also know an area in Plateau State that they call Du. It's a place where the former state governor resides. And it is very difficult for you to see Muslims trying to even go to that area. What really can be done to change that kind of scenarios?
See, confidence building measure. See, politicians will have to roll back. See, we have to narrow our requirement for leadership recruitment to competence. To see, people leverage on parochial mundane societal issues like that, like religion, like like ethnicity, because some people, when they champion things like that, at the next election they come to stand. Well, now we defend this territory. You get it. But if see, it's all politics. All those Angworogo do and all that, all those stratifications you are seeing, is just seed of discourse that have been sown by politicians.
But for how long are we going to carry that?
And for as long as we are ready to be well, we need to get well. And getting well is if the political interference is leading, like I pointed out earlier, there was Plateau before 2000. It has been there. There were people of other religions before in Plateau. Before year 2000. Why were they not fighting? That is the question. Why were they not fighting? We return to democracy. The next thing is there are things you can't just really say. Now, it's political interference that is causing most of this stratification, strife and all that. Christians don't go here. Who says so? Go to places like Boronu. Like you see people living amongst each other, and there's no problem. So this is religion. The politicians that are manipulating religion so that they become ethnic champion. When it's time for politics, they carry this garment of we are the defender of our people. Yes, we are the defender of our people. And there are even some governors that have been tagged as you go to Plateau. There are successive governors. There's been always this one is defending this one is all those. So we just need to redirect how, if I know that by trying to spite other religions or people of other faiths, it's not going to benefit me politically, what is the need to do it? But if that is what will give me power, because power is sweet, I will have to leverage on it. And that means I have to polarize my people with other people that don't sell land to these people, even rentage. There are some places you go to rent a commodity. They won't give you because they feel that you are from other religions and all
So
that.
I think this still boils down to the point that you earlier made about recalibration of our value system.
That's right.
And when we empower the traditional society, the traditional institutions, I think we can start from there, because it has to begin from the grassroots.
That's right.
All right, so let's move away a little bit from politics and insecurity. One of the major stories that it's everywhere now is the Twitter ban that was lifted by the federal government, and the Guardian actually carried it and says that there was economic losses of 546 billion naira during the period that that Twitter was shut down. So what's your reaction to that?
Welcome development is good. I think for now we don't have to cut corners. It's not everybody that can do that, that can cut corners. But now that is all comers, you see that those whose means of livelihood is dependent on that on Twitter and the social media, their business will come back alive again. But the question is, do we need 7 months to be able to go through this?
Yeah, well, they said they actually gave Twitter conditions, and Twitter agreed to those conditions before they were released, because the government had problems with how the platform was being used. Because I think it's not a social media problem; it's a problem of usage.
I agree. I agree that even those are multinationals, and those are multi-billion-dollar companies. So they are supposed to. Nigeria is a huge market for Twitter. They are supposed to. I agree that they are supposed to pay tax. Yes, they are supposed. Yes, because I don't. Before now, apart from those that are using it to boost their business and all that, I don't know whether Twitter has an employee in Nigeria and all that. I quite agree. I was in agreement with the federal government when that ban came, especially how the slighted the slight on the president and all that.
Also, a lot of people actually thought it was out of spite. Yeah, the president felt spite that Twitter was used to do that, and then as a reaction, he banned them.
Whatever action has been taken, and Twitter has been forced to make amends, is good. But the 7 months was too long to find common ground. But thank God, finally it's here. You can see the amount Guardian quoted there, more than 546. That is lots of money. There are too many youths who are surviving with social media, especially the advertorials and all that. They run adverts for people. They manage social media handles for people and all that, because that is the best way. That is the best invention of man, the internet, to be able to, if you are here, a little creativity you have, you put it out there. You know of this lady, you see, what is that? Sally, is it Sally? S-A-L-L-E. The very short video, the 17-year-old girl that was selling, that sells granite or something around, has very good voice to sing. And just in a corner like this, a very short clip was taken and put on the social media. I think within a week, Rihanna was attracted. Major producers were attracted to her, and her life has changed. And so many, and so many young men. It's a way to promote their talent. So it's a welcome development.
Okay, now with the lifting of this ban, some are worried as well that maybe the federal government might want to gag the social media platform somewhere.
Like Amnesty International said, the ban was wrong in the first place. That is a way of curtailing freedom of information. Yes. So whatever. I think that the federal government cannot, the way it is now, if they have unbanned Twitter, how are they going to gag it? Is it to monitor it or something? I don't think so.
Well, lots of people actually believe that the balance needs to be struck. You understand, between what is free speech, what is defamation. You understand? If I say I have a right to free speech and I come to Twitter and I insult you, you also have a right not to be defamed. So how do we strike this balance?
That is why we have a cyber crime law. Those things are already covered. And I think that the organ of government, I like to mention NOA always. If their problem is funding, government should fund them to be able to reach out to people. See, rudimentary, most people don't even know that there's law against maybe, talking to you. If you read comments of most people online, and if those they are referring to want to react the way in proportionate to the comments, you will see many court cases. But truthfully, you need to know that something is an offense before you, and that has to do with government organs that are responsible for enlightening citizens. But they are not doing much at the moment. You get it?
Right.
Now that government has unbanned this, I personally think that there should be a follow-up, a kind of a plan to sensitize Nigerians on the responsible use of the social media. You let them know that this thing is not only to attack people or to attack people's personality or to defame them, but you can actually sensitize youth on the potential in the social media can take too many out of. Some are using it negatively, but there's still positive aspect of it.
Right.
Two is huge. Millions will earn their living from there, but it will have to depend on what government is able to communicate to them that, listen, you don't have to use this to insult the government or this, but this is the opportunity that is available in this area. This is what you can do. So those seminars are there, but most times, most youths cannot pay for some of these seminars to attend, to be able to learn what they can do with the social media to better their lives, instead of using it as source of attack on other people's characters and all that. So government will have to banning Twitter. Twitter is one thing, but another thing is ensuring that as they're coming back, you have to put in place a plan to be able to bridge the gap of communication. There's misconception in the whole of this.
Right.
If you tell me you can use Facebook to boost even if your business is in Kara Namoda and there's internet there, you can just snap something and put there that you are doing. If you mix this with mix that, it becomes so and so. And you see, if the moment is online, people will reach out to you no matter how remote. There's no remote place again in the world.
Right.
Government should engage youth through their government agencies responsible for enlightening citizens so that they can bridge the gap of communication. Because most people still think that social media is for maybe attack, insulting people. No.
Okay.
There are other positive aspects of it.
Okay. We're going to take a look at some more stories right after this break. Do stay.
It started more than 20,000. Also, this one, about 5,000 are fighters. And what is ongoing in the bush is a generation. They continue to multiply themselves. They are given birth and they are growing up. Whether they are fighters or not, their population is good to be curtailed. Two of our local government headquarters areas are still under the control of Boko Haram. Manupatori, which is Guzamala, Abadam local government, and Guzamala local government areas. We want to see this local government taken over by the owners. Who are the owners? Government of Borno State and the two local government areas. Leadership before the expiration of the tenure of this administration. But I want to also give you good tidings that the Nigerian Army is cooperating with us in ensuring that two local government areas are open for human occupation.
As Boko Haram are surrendering in droves, the strength of the ISWAP is also manifesting and growing, especially in the southern border. Peace is priceless. We are spending 17 trillion this year. But I can say here again that in the period where we are faced with challenges in almost all the 36 states, do more so that under your leadership in this year 2022, it will be written in bold of history that you, Major General C.J. Musha, just as I mentioned, Obasanjo brought the Civil War to end, you will be the one that will bring the insurgency in the Northeast to an end.
Welcome back. It's still Daybreak right here on Trust TV, and we're still reviewing the national dailies. So quickly, let's take a look at this headline on the front page of The Guardian. I mean, like, we've talked insecurity, we've talked politics, and we haven't touched COVID-19. So a summit here urges Nigeria to galvanize their nations to seek, other nations to seek debt relief. That's IMF wants global collaboration to boost Africa's vaccination drive. Now, this story is on the front page of The Guardian. COVID-19 has wreaked havoc on a lot of things, and so how do we equate that with getting debt relief and then vaccination? How do we balance the two?
Yes, so many economies are struggling. Yes, so the need, I think this initiative or the call is timely, because the source of income of most countries has really been badly been affected. Like we're bouncing back, especially for countries that depend on crude oil to finance their government, like Nigeria. We're bouncing back until this recent COVID, Omicron also surfaced, and it's time, and industrialized nation who buys our oil mostly start rolling back economic activities and others. It's already affecting us and other countries too, because whether we like it or not, economic dynamics of the 21st century is so interlinked that there's nothing one country can do that it will not affect the other.
Exactly.
So it's time for donor most of the countries that the creditor nations to look into this call. It's very germane at this time, because if we continue to service debt, it will affect how our ability to finance our government back in various countries. And but debt relief will go a long way in cushioning the effects of COVID-19 on the economy. And I think on the issue of the production of African vaccine, there are institutions like ECOWAS who is talking about it, AU is talking about it. The prayer is that it should not stop at just rhetoric, just talking, and the rich nations are just there, and when their vaccine is about two months to expire, they will just
collecting any more
better stop collecting it and see what we can do. We have all it takes to do this, but it's just that just like we mentioned earlier, political will is The keyword, yeah.
Well,
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the program. We've been speaking with the publisher, Summit Post News, Nelson Yakubu Omonu, giving us perspectives on some of the major stories that made the headlines on our dailies this morning. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, Zainab.
And we hope to have you next time.
Thank you.
But in a situation where you find that a person look like the same,
Not necessarily tribal or regional.
but I have said that